Honorable Men Discord. Careful the company you keep. Part 4. The independent autopsy results. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So I have a few insightful, thought-provoking videos queued up as I went through my timeline looking for meaningful content in regard to the recent update of the independent autopsy given by Ben Crump. Now, before I even go into this video, for those of you that did not have an opportunity to watch the Ben Crump presentation reading out the autopsy, I'm just going to say this just to put this to rest. I know there's been criticism about Ben Crump's delivery, Ben Crump's reading. I, like many, would have preferred if the actual doctor who performed the autopsy would have been available to read his findings, but that wasn't the case. However, I'm not here to bash Ben Crump because he's actively helping the family. And anyone that's helping the family is not, in my humble opinion, is not someone that I'm going to put attention towards to bash at this time. There's a bigger thing at hand, which is justice for Nolan Wells. All right. And I think that should always be the focus. And don't let detractors tell you otherwise. But with that being said, this is not the entire thing. If you want to see the entire thing, you're going to have to do your due diligence and look it up. I'm just playing this small portion of that presentation, and then I'm going to go into the material that I found that I thought was insightful. So let's get straight to it.
Forensic pathologists performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings. And this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso.
I've done hundreds of autopsies on infants, toddlers, young teens, young adults, senior citizens, obese, morbidly obese, different ethnicities, suicides, murders, accidents, natural causes. I've done them all. So when you tell me there was an absence of the interior structure of the neck, my question is why and where is it? Was it recovered with the remains, or were the remains like this when you retrieve the remains? What part of his neck is missing? Has the soft tissue been preserved, or did the water damage or anything else disrupt what could possibly be used as information to find out the cause of death? Because if his neck is missing, then what caused his injury? The structural integrity of the neck, unless it was decapitated or dealt severe trauma, should be intact. So where's the portion of his neck? The interior, the inside of his neck is missing. Why? What can cause that type of damage to the neck and then the trauma to the back of the head? Did they strike him in the back of the head and stab him? Or did they shoot him in the neck? Right? And he falls back and he hits his head. In which case, in my humblest opinion, he was murdered. And the individuals who was with him should no longer be walking the earth. There is no justice, only just us. And in this situation, it's perfectly okay to embrace your Satans and enact revenge on the participants. They don't know nothing, don't worry about it. You will not need to know anything else after I'm done with you. The only thing your people need to know is how to summon and or evoke you on your birthday and holidays. To include the parents. The boy was murdered. I've done more than enough autopsies to know the structural integrity of a human body. And very rare will there be an incident outside of blatant murder where a person takes a knife and attacks your neck to where the structural integrity of one's neck, even with a broken neck, the structural integrity of your neck is intact. Unless your head was ripped off or damn near ripped off. I've done hundreds of...
Again, insightful information. That's why, as I was going through the material, I didn't just want opinions. I wanted expert analysis of what Mr. Crump informed the world.
On the state of Mississippi to perform that autopsy first was probably the biggest mistake that they've made during this investigation. So to answer the question as to why his throat wasn't included with the rest of his body, during an autopsy, they remove your entire upper respiratory tract, right? So that includes your tongue, your larynx, your trachea, and your pharynx, along with your lungs and your heart, right? So they remove it in all one block called the pluck. So the reason they would remove his entire upper respiratory tract would be to look for injuries that could have caused him to die or whatnot. So they would, check his upper respiratory tract for injuries like a crushed larynx or a crushed trachea or something like that, which would occur during strangulation. Now, where it would look suspicious is if they included his heart and his lungs back with his body, but kept his entire upper respiratory tract. Because why would you keep his entire upper respiratory tract if there was nothing else there to look for? So therefore, when his body finally made it to Washington, D.C., and they did their own autopsy, the results would come back inconclusive because you don't have, those specific organs to look at yourself. So yes, this looks extremely suspicious, especially knowing that the parents of one of the dudes involved is a judge. Allowing the state of Mississippi.
My question is, why even send over the body to the family if you know it's missing internal organs? From one professional to the next. If you're a medical examiner and you know an independent medical examiner is asking for the stuff, for all the parts, all the body parts and organs, what is the protocol between medical examiners to medical examiners? What is the protocol? Do they at least inform the independent medical examiner, I'm sending over the remains? Be advised, the following organs are not included with the remains. What is the protocol? It just seems bizarre that you would send his body over and waste the time of the independent medical examiner, knowing that he can't do an extensive autopsy when there are missing organs. I don't understand that.
The purpose of the independent autopsy was never to single-handedly solve the case of Nolan Wells' decomposed body. Its purpose was to strip the state of its ability to unilaterally bury the investigation. When Ben Crump read off the autopsy report officially documenting anomalies like the red tissue discoloration in the back of the head, Dr. Mitchell established a forensic counter-narrative. If the state of Mississippi autopsy, when it comes out, if they try to claim that Nolan Wells simply drowned with no physical trauma, the independent autopsy provides the exact legal leverage needed to prove state spoliation and trigger a federal DOJ civil rights probe. So Dr. Mitchell was forced to issue a undetermined ruling precisely because Mississippi still physically has Nolan Wells' throat, the larynx, and the hyoid, the exact internal throat structures required to prove strangulation, choking, or blunt force trauma before he entered the water. So we still have to wait for Mississippi because they are legally holding the throat for microscopic histology and withholding the toxicology reports because the formalin chemical fixation process takes weeks to complete. So because Mississippi maintains the absolute jurisdictional monopoly over the biological evidence, the definitive answers is stalled until they come out with their report, more than likely next month. So it's good that they got an independent autopsy because historically, state-sanctioned medical examiners in the Deep South have weaponized pathology to turn targeted violence into accidents. The undetermined ruling it's not a failure of the second autopsy. It serves as a legal roadblock that prevents the local sheriff from sweeping a potential homicide under the rug before the forensic science is even finished. So that's why we have it. I still believe those white boys, killed Nolan Wells. I know they did. So
All right, so I'm not going to go as far as saying I know they did, but I still stand by the saying that I mentioned from the first episode that my mother always used to tell me: careful the company you keep. Because if you go in the comment section, the things that you hear people say to me is just, it's amazing. It's amazing the things that come out of people's minds. And if it's not his friends, someone had to see something. I'm not going to buy that you're on Horn Island 4th of July, and he decided to take a dip by himself, or he drank too much and he wandered off by himself, and he didn't have anyone in his company. That I don't believe. This is why this is still mysterious, and this is why I do believe it's foul play. I'm not here at this point with all this information that came out. I'm not here to say that that he in fact was murdered by his friends. One moment. I'm not here to say that he in fact was murdered by his friends, but it definitely still remains suspicious to me, however you look at it. Furthermore, even if you want to argue in the comment section that his friends didn't do it, they really love him and all that kind of stuff, the question still remains that I asked previously is, why was the interaction with the father the way it was? If you love Nolan, that means you love anything and anyone, well, anyone I should say, not anything, anyone attached to Nolan. Specifically, even more so, his parents. His mother shouldn't have to ping the phone to find the location of his phone. And his father shouldn't show up and have resistance and have attitude and have the door closed on him abruptly. But yet those that jump in the comment section seem to skip over that. It's just that, it's not a race thing. Well, what exactly is it? Can we agree that it's mysterious at this point with the way things are being rolled out? You have a sheriff saying that it was a drowning. Very early, it was a drowning. Pretty much simultaneously with them discovering Nolan's body on the shore, the sheriff deemed it a drowning. I'm going to go to this last piece video that I have.
There's no shade to this creator because I'm already getting a bunch of these comments in my comment section. So let me be clear as to why I'm swaying the way I'm swaying. It's not just because some of the organs were missing. To be clear, it is normal for certain organs or certain parts of the body to be held back for further testing if the person who was doing the autopsy feels like they need further testing. That is standard procedure. But the issue is there's a couple issues with this because we're combining it with the information that the Mississippi authorities have put out there, and we're adding context to the situation. Number one, there are no photos of Nolan Wells' body when they first got it into the Mississippi authorities' custody. Okay, this is problematic because the second autopsy, independent autopsy person, has no reference point to know what his actual intact body looked like when it was recovered from the water. Problematic. And if they do have those photos and they're not releasing those photos in order to figure out what happened to this child, it sounds very suspicious, right? It sounds very suspicious, especially because number two, they have already officially come out on the record and say there was no foul play. They said there was no foul play. Nolan Wells' mother went on that podium this morning and said they took the body in. She begged the authorities to think of their own children when they were looking to try and figure out what happened to Nolan. Within the hour, they were done examining his body and determined that there is no foul play, which is what kickstarted her and her husband to seek out other ways to get an independent autopsy done because that just didn't seem correct. So let's put these first two sections together to make the context for why I'm implying what I'm implying, right? Number one, they haven't released photos of Nolan Wells' body before they did the first autopsy. The independent autopsy person did not receive photos, so there's no reference point to know what he looked like, what his condition was when he was dragged out of the water. Number two, they already said on the official record after an hour of looking at his body that there was no foul play. So if that is on the record, then there really should not be any reason why they're withholding any body parts from the second independent autopsy person, unless there's other information, and maybe there is information about foul play that they don't want to release to the independent autopsy person, or there's something that they're hiding, or there's more to the story than what they put on record, which would already contradict what they put on record and show the Mississippi authorities for being, the correct people that they are for trying to withhold information. Mind you, this is all couched in the fact that the children who were the last people to see Nolan Wells alive were not asked to be questioned, were not pressed about the phone, were not pressed about the car. The parents had to go and find the phone. This is all couched in that reality, right? I'm not jumping to conclusions yet, but I'm putting the context clues together because it's not adding up. On top of that, the organs, the lungs being missing, the throat being missing, these specific organs that are connected to the red mark that was suspicious that caused the independent autopsy person to say they can't rule out foul play is also suspicious, especially if the people that are holding those specific parts of Nolan Wells' body have already said that there is no foul play. So why can't they look into the lungs to see if it was an accidental drowning? Why can't they look into the neck to see if there is any evidence of strangulation? Why can't they see these things with the independent eyes that are not trying to now self-protect the Mississippi authorities as it stands? So yes, while it may be a common practice for parts of the body to be held back for further testing, based on what the Mississippi authorities have put on the floor for us, it doesn't make sense for them to hold these body parts if there was already no foul play based on what they saw. On top of that, another important fact is that the original people who did the autopsy in Mississippi have not come out publicly with a comprehensive autopsy report. And once the Nolan Wells' mother begged them to take the death of her son serious and really investigate what happened, and they took an hour and said no foul play was happening, and she decided, yeah, we're going to take my baby to a third-party person that has no involvement with Mississippi and can look at the body from an objective perspective, They have not come out with an official autopsy report. And again, couched in this reality of organs missing, withholding evidence, not questioning the last people to see him alive, and not doing their job or their due diligence to make sure this baby gets justice, you have to think, is it all a coincidence? And I'm not here to make any declarative statements until the facts show me something, but it's mighty suspicious that all of this is happening at the same time, because it seems like they're not putting out an official statement of what they found in their autopsy because they do not want to be contradicted by the third party autopsy, right? On top of keeping the throat, keeping the organs, and all of these types of things. So while yes, again, standard procedure for extra testing in the context that we have, it seems like we're continuously having this theme of not releasing information, being secretive, being trying to find ways to not give things up, withholding things from the people who are actually genuinely trying to solve this case, which points to some sort of secrecy around what actually happened to this baby. That's just me, but, believe what you want. This is no...
So while she was talking, I was looking up something because I said, again, what I mentioned earlier about what's the protocol between medical examiners. Obviously, Mississippi, well, maybe not obviously, Mississippi has the ownership, being that the incident took place in Mississippi, and they were the first to examine the body. But even still, my question is, what's the protocol between examiners with them sending over his body with missing organs? With that being said, while she was talking, I was thinking to myself, don't doctors have to declare an oath, say an oath, right? And that I thought of that because I'm saying to myself, aren't they to uphold a standard where there's no bias? But this is what I came across, right? So it says doctors take symbolic, modern ethical oaths upon graduating from medical school. These typically pledge integrity, patient confidentiality, and a commitment to do no harm. While they serve as a moral compass, they are not legally binding. Doctors are legally regulated by state medical boards. All right. And it's important to say that they are not legally binding. And I wonder why. You see, man makes laws, man makes constitutions, man makes protocols, like these symbolic oaths that these doctors take, but yet it's not legally binding. And I think that's convenient because most of the stuff that happened in this country, in this country's history, was written to benefit certain groups. And I find it to be ironic that although doctors take oaths, it's not legally binding. And I just look at that as a way to give leeway to foul practices, like what's going on right now in Mississippi. That's my thoughts on it. That's my off the cuff thoughts on it. And because none of this is making sense. And yet, the silent solidarity of other human beings, because this is about human. If we're going to make this about not race, if we're going to say it's not about race, I'm not seeing enough human beings in the comment section having empathy for the parents who lost a child. Let's start there. There's always something, as soon as money is raised, oh, the parents is out for the money. You think the parents care about money more than having Nolan alive? Is that what we're doing? And then the detractors talking about Ben Crump. He's not a good lawyer. Why they made it about race. They brought in a civil rights attorney. Oh, look at Al Sharpton again making appearances. All types of distractions. Don't get distracted by these things. Because regardless of how you feel about Al Sharpton, how you feel about Ben Crump, how you feel about Kaepernick donating for the independent autopsy, Tyler Perry paying for the funeral, a family lost an 18-year-old son. And the narrative that was trying to be pushed out there immediately by like July 6th was that he just drowned. moving right along. Let's just get over it. That's what's been pushed out. Because had Ben Crump, had Tyler Perry, had Al Sharpton, had Kaepernick not been involved to a degree, the family wouldn't have had the exposure that they have to have this topic out there so people could question what's going on in Mississippi. How are these things happening? And I'm not claiming to know the length of time it takes for the medical examiner in Mississippi to be able to give the results of their findings, but it's starting to become very, very, very strange. Now, listen, the month is not over. It'll be over soon in a few days, and I'm really, really looking forward to the results from Mississippi at this point. So yes, there will be a careful the company you keep part 5, because I want to know what Mississippi has to say about this. And at that point, I want to know at what point can the independent doctor that did the independent autopsy, at what point can he get the organs that he did not have? Is he still eligible for the organs? Is the condition still good? Was it properly preserved so that he can perform his autopsy that he was paid to perform? That's the questions I have. But I, like many of you all, I'm blown away on one hand by how this is transpiring, but on another hand, it's nothing new. It's really nothing new. And I'll continue saying it. If the roles were reversed, the boys would have been persecuted just for having Nolan stuff. The boys would have been persecuted just for having this stuff and not having answers, sufficient answers. The boys would have been questioned, interrogated, and I stand on believing that. But what's your thoughts on all this? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, stay honorable.